Training Partners.
Welcome to Training Partners, where two fitness professionals bring you strong takes held loosely. I'm Weezy Shoemaker, and as always, I'm joined by Justin McClintock. And today we'll be talking about a topic near and dear to both of our hearts: load versus capacity.
Yes, indeed. Sure is.
Very exciting. Very excited. Not talked about enough. This is a concept that I don't want to speak for you, but I think we both go through with all of our clients and some friends and anybody who will listen to us.
It's such an underpinning of how I work with people and how I make
Mm,
decisions about what we should do, where we should go, what we should add, how it should be built.
right.
But it's also, I'm really glad we're doing this because in like our little niche of the internet, I feel like a lot of people just assume that everyone knows this and talk
Right.
about it in terms and throw things around and use ideas without fleshing them out. And if someone might be hearing it and say, I don't know what you're like. Now you're just
Right.
using like jargon language and I'm a little
Right.
bit lost. And it's so fundamental to how people kind of do fitness. I don't think you can overstress how important this is.
Wow. What a lead in. Love that. Before we get into it, I would love to know what's new in your world.
What's
What's
new
the
in my
story?
world? I am at time of recording going through the process of selling a house, but it's going pretty well. But that's been immensely stressful and is getting less stressful as time goes on. But there's every day I'm talking to like realtors and lawyers, and I have a meeting with a notary tomorrow and all kinds of other stuff. So that's taking a bunch of time.
Hmm.
I'm also in the middle. We are in the middle of a nasty heat wave, and the East Coast is being flattened by it.
Yeah. Here too.
Triple. I shouldn't be this far north and be having triple digits. It's not a thing, and to the point of like a number of restaurants closed yesterday
Oh
because of the
my.
heat. Because they're and I'm in Providence, Rhode Island, which is a pretty labor forward, pretty cool place with lots of people doing their damnedest to operate businesses ethically.
Hmm.
Not always something you find, especially in the service sector. So several restaurants just sort of openly said, our kitchen staff can't work like this. Like we have air conditioning,
Wow.
we're trying, we can't keep up. The temperatures are out of control. We don't think it's safe. We're shutting
Wow.
down. My
That's
barber canceled
incredible.
my appointment yesterday. He called and was like, no, it's too. I have an air conditioner and it's not enough. And no one, I don't want to be here. You definitely don't want to be here. We'll do it another
Yeah.
time. So it's like seriously affecting life in a challenging way right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see most of my clients at the moment in a CrossFit gym that does not have any of the amenities that you would want from a gym when
Classic.
it's 100 degrees. Um
Builds character.
so right. Does it? Um I, as luck, fate, the universe, whatever you want to call it, would have it, a number of my clients, most especially the pregnant ones, are out of town this week. Um, so I'm delighted by that because I likely would have had to make the decision to cancel them anyway, particularly the folks that train after 10 a.m. because it's just like we can't accomplish anything meaningful in this. It's just too hot.
Yeah, it gets completely unreasonable. And I've worked in multiple CrossFit gyms that didn't have air conditioning of various levels of tough. There was a basement in Philadelphia, which is a little like, oh, it's the basement, it should be cooler. Not really. And there's no circulation. So we were just putting up a series of fans carefully aimed and
Right.
trying to embrace you came here to sweat. What are you complaining about? The warehouse in North Carolina was really something like classic
Yeah.
CrossFit industrial setup, like industrial park. There was just a warehouse. We, ran up the rollout door and ran around the
Right.
building. That was the lap kind of thing. But God forbid you set up anything outside. They have this big outdoor area, so would utilize it.
Right.
After 15 minutes, you couldn't touch a barbell or dumbbell or kettlebell because the metal got too hot.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
You'd burn the calluses off your hands.
I
Yeah.
remember
This
once.
is
This will take 2 minutes. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I
no
showed up
go.
for a fitness class, some CrossFit, to work out as a member. Had forgotten my shoes, like I had worn work boots, and went for my CrossFit shoes in my bag, and they weren't there. I went, oh no. Coach said, you can totally do this in bare feet, man. It's no problem. Great. Thank you very much. I'm comfortable working out in bare feet. If you're cool with it, I'm cool. He's like, yep, I'm cleaning the floor after this anyway. It doesn't matter. Excellent. But there was a run and it was really hot out. And none of us had really calculated that. And I took off on my 400 and my feet were burning, but I was sort of in for a penny at that point. So tried to move as fast as I could, but that didn't really work. And I did a bike after that instead of the run. It was like running on burning pavement and had paid for the pleasure of doing so.
Oh my God. You now relate intimately to like taking Baloo for a walk.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, which I don't do in heat like this. Yesterday, I
Right.
actually went out. I sprayed down. My backyard is a mixture of like concrete and garden, but I sprayed down some of the backyard just
Yeah.
to bring him out and kind of walk him in little circles, and
Right.
then bring him right back inside so he could use the bathroom and stuff. But yeah, it's oppressive.
Wow. Both gyms that I was at in Nashville when we lived there both had AC. And so the first experience that I've actually had with like a CrossFit proper, it's hot as fuck or cold as fuck, depending on the season of the year, is up here, which is interesting because I've been in that space for a decade at this point. So
Uh,
wild.
Not to date this recording, but have you by any chance run into the small concert that happened in Nashville last night on social media? There was a
For
band
anybody
whose
who's
name I forget had a concert, $50 for their thing, and they were doing a show.
$39, Justin.
So you do know what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. So, for anybody listening who perhaps does not follow me on social media, I am a Swiftie, a capital S Swiftie. I paid almost an entire month's wages to see the Eras tour twice, and I would do it again in a second. It was the greatest 3.5 hours of my life, and I got to experience it 2 times. And there is a thing in Nashville called the Tight End University, which is I was gonna make a porn joke and I blacked out. It's
Write your own joke here, audience.
write your own joke here and insert it. All right, this keeps getting better. Tight End University in Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Of course, Travis Kelce was in attendance. And of course, he brought his incredible girlfriend, Taylor Allison Swift, with him. And she popped in for a surprise song at this $39 concert. And the Swiftie universe has collectively lost their minds because of everything that has happened with her recently acquiring her masters, right? Like the last time that she was on a stage performing in any capacity was the last show of the Eras tour almost 7 months ago now in Vancouver, right? She took a bow and then she just basically like faded into the background. Nobody saw her publicly for months. And she started coming out again, which I realize now how bizarre I sound talking about all of this. It's fine. Swifties will understand and everybody else will think I'm crazy. You got 60 more seconds of me talking about Taylor Swift. Years ago, her masters were sold out from under her without her consent or even knowledge. Somebody else
Scooter.
owned her music, Scooter Braun, sold it to somebody else, and she found out about it after it already happened, even though she made it clear she wanted to acquire them, right? And as a result of making a lot of money from the Eras tour, she actually was able to buy back all of her masters, in part because she re-recorded all of the stuff that was stolen under new names, basically devaluing her old work because true Swifties were not listening to it if it was not Taylor's version, right? I'm not going to support this consulting industry, even if they're lovely, because we want our girl to own her stuff. And so because of the success of the Eras tour, she was able to buy it back. And now this song that she sang last night was the first time back on stage, 1, since the ending of the Eras tour, and 2, since owning her own music. And how wonderful that it was that she didn't have a band. She didn't have background singer. She didn't have an earpiece. She didn't have anything choreographed. She had an acoustic guitar on stage backed by people that she probably met a day ago. So incredible. We love it. Swifties are going feral about it, and I am absolutely one of them.
Yeah, I saw that early this morning and didn't even send you something, which I normally would. It was like, I'm sure she's already like she already knows that guy's name and who the drummer is, and people have already like done deep dives on all of this. That journey you just described, not to like spend too much time. If this is annoying you, then go to the next podcast or something. Audience, this is just going to happen sometimes. What you just described, like her music was sold out from under her. She was very angry. Declared that she was going to re-record all of her own music, devaluing it so it won't be worth as much. Then went on was it a 2.5-year tour? She was on the road forever.
Yeah. Her first show was April either 16th or 17th of 2023. And her last show was early December of this last year.
Yeah. So
right. So she was continuously on tour, somewhere between 3 and 5 shows a week. For
at that 3.5 hour stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, including the opener, but she herself was on stage, as I understand it, for like 2.5 hours every night.
The longest break was like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. Bonkers.
And it was a very, very physical show. She was all over the place.
And doing a huge amount of work, and incredibly successful. I think most successful tour ever at this point of recording, and all of that stuff. Has the money, has set up all of these walls so the music kind of isn't worth it to anybody else, and whoever owns it gets a bad name, and a bunch of people attack them and hate them. And now she has the money to do it. It reminds me of, and this is my kind of nerddom. Years ago, I heard Penn Jillette, who's a magician. There's a magic group called Penn and Teller who've been around forever.
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to work with Teller and a couple times and meet Penn. And the way Penn described their magic tricks, because they do all original stuff and how they build them, he said the real trick is we will do something the hardest way possible so that no one could ever believe that anyone would do it. That's a real magic trick. Like there's a sequence in their show where they do a thing and Penn has taken an audience member's phone. He causes a distraction and throws the phone behind him without looking. It travels about 25 feet and lands in a cup that Teller's holding. They do it every single night. It always works. They practice for 2 years.
Right.
It's not a specially weighted thing. There's not a string. There's no magnets. He's like, yeah, we practiced every night. We would come out and practice throwing for about 30 minutes until I could do it sideways, left-handed, spinning in circles, and always, always, always hit the mark. That's crazy. So no one would ever think you would do that. That's what that sequence reminds me of. Like, oh, okay. Well, what I'm going to do is do this massive recording project and try and replicate things I've done 10, 15 years ago with same sounds, or similar sounds, all of this, and a bunch of new stuff, and market it, and create a massive tour that's jumping city to city. And I know, you probably know this, but a tour that big, there has to be at least 2 tours because there's too much stuff. Because it takes 2 days to take it down. So the other tour has to be in place setting it up. So there's actually at least double the amount of stuff roving around the world setting up for 2.5 years. Then I'm going to get my music back. It's an amazing magic trick that you'd be like, well, no one would do that. So
Taylor
we've
Swift
got her right where we want her because she definitely won't do this insane sequence of events.
Lucky for you, she's mentally unstable, and so are all of her
Just
fans.
the right kind of crazy.
Yeah, they're truly the economic impact of everywhere that she went to. Like countries and cities saw genuine economic growth from, hey, Taylor was here for the weekend, and we saw this incredible influx of money.
Far better than the Olympics. The Olympics just ruins wherever it goes. Just bring Taylor in. I'm down. I'm in.
Just bring Taylor.
Every 4 years we'll do it.
Sporting events. Just Taylor Swift. Yeah. This was a good side quest. Yes. I appreciate that.
Anytime.
Should we get to load versus capacity?
No, this has been great, audience. So if you want to listen to the... Yeah, I'm sorry. What we've gathered for.
I would love to, before we get into that, give an update on what is happening with the gym that I'm hoping to open.
Oh, yes, please.
So as of the time of recording, I have received an email 15 minutes ago, truly a minute before we hopped on this, that the top runner place that I have submitted for has accepted the lease terms. However, we need to come to a mutual understanding on the ceiling because I would like the drop ceiling removed and they would not like to do that. So I'm hopeful that we can come to an arrangement, or that I can take my 6'5" husband there and get some assurance that no, this actually will be tall enough for my purposes, and hopeful that that can be the future home of Sustained and we can really start to cook with gas. So
It's so exciting.
we'll absolutely keep you and listeners in the loop. Who knows, maybe by the time this comes out, we're like renovating. But if you'd like to keep up with that in more real time, you can find me personally on social media at Coach Weeze.
Yes. And you're very good at updating and sharing as much as you want to and keeping people along with the journey there.
Right. And no feet pics. Not ever.
Well, no free feed.
No free feet.
Those of
That's
us who
right.
have access to the subscription feed get plenty.
Only feet. All right. Load versus capacity. So this is a concept that we chat about with all of our clients and basically anybody who will listen to us, because I think it's so fundamental to thinking about what our bodies are capable of and how much they can withstand. Would you agree with that?
Completely.
Yeah. So I like to describe this to my clients as a bucket of water.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You might see this drawn up on social media as a chart, as a bucket of something, as a wave. It could be accomplished with any number of analogies, but I like to think of it as a bucket of water. When the bucket is full, it has no more room for more water, right? Is that fair?
Yeah, completely.
And so the spillage could potentially be problematic. Maybe it's nothing, but that's where we get into the potential of causing some problems. So let's talk about what puts water in our bucket. That's the analogy I'll use for today. And so the initial part that puts water in our bucket falls under a category that we'd call pre-existing. Think of this as like at the bottom of your bucket, you've got a bunch of rocks, right?
Yeah, this is there to start with no matter what.
Right. It's just there. The first category, which I like to spend almost no time talking about at all with clients because it's the one that we don't have a ton of control over, is called your anatomical dysfunction, which just means the things about your brain or body that we can't necessarily change, right? Maybe something has happened to you, or you're neurodivergent, you have ruptured a tendon, you have broken a bone, maybe one of your legs is a little shorter than the other. This affects how you move around through space and how you process the world and how you navigate things. And there's probably not a whole lot that we can do about it. And so we probably shouldn't spend a ton of time thinking about it.
Yeah, I've even gone away from using the term dysfunction. A lot of times I'll just use anomalies or even
Yeah.
status and
Yeah.
explain it in the, so the theory is this is what a perfect human being looks like. It turns out that no one looks like that. Like there is no one who's symmetrical. There is no one who's exactly balanced. There is no like the thing that you draw up in the anatomy textbook and that all of the rules are based on. That person doesn't exist.
Right.
There are certain things we can't change about you. Your height, how certain joints are shaped, all of these things. That just is what it is. We're interested. We're going to use it in our tools, but since we can't move that lever one way or the other, we're just taking it as a given.
I like that a lot. And I'm going to start using that right away. Thanks for sharing that.
Anytime.
So that's, call it like layer of rocks number one. Layer of rocks number two is sleep, diet, and stress. And I like to phrase this to people as, hey, your car needs gas. If it does not get the gas that it needs, is your car going to run? It's as simple as that. I need to have enough and adequate quality sleep. I need to have enough and adequate quality food. And I need to be able to regulate my internal state so that if I, let's say, get cut off on the interstate, that doesn't send me into a psychopathic rage.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I need to have those tools be true. And if I am sleeping 5 hours a night, if I am eating one, maybe two meals a day, and if I have an extremely high stress partnership, work life situations going on, that's going to put more rocks in my bucket.
Yeah, completely.
Right.
And I think what you just said is really important as people are picturing this analogy. More stuff is kind of worse. We want there to be room in the bucket. We want there to be more space.
Right.
So as your lower quality sleep, higher levels of stress, less optimal diet, that's going to be more and more and more rocks filling this bucket up.
That's right. And then the third, in what we consider to be pre-existing, this kind of rock as opposed to water, is functional diagnosis, which is a complicated term for what can you do? What are you capable of? In what ways does your body move? Where is it strong? Where does it have opportunities? And we look at that both opposing muscle groups and side to side. This would be the one piece of the equation that you probably want some support on finding if you don't already know. Maybe even if you do already know, it can be really helpful to have an outside opinion from a coach or a colleague or an accountability buddy who is trained and who you trust.
Yeah, people often have at least an inkling of how their sleep, diet, stress is one way or the other, and they may or may not have feelings about it. And they might have ideas of like, oh, I got a bad shoulder and my hamstrings are really tight, but other than that, I'm good. Being able to put some metrics on that, like what
Right.
do you mean by that? What is your status? And importantly, what is your status right now? Right? I don't care what you could do a year ago. I'm not particularly interested. You're going to change a little day to day. Where are we right now? Let's nail it down and put some numbers on it so we actually have a baseline to work from.
I think that's an important call out. We're not interested in you from 5 years ago when you were training 5 times a week. We're interested in you right now.
That's a whole other podcast. Like comparison stuff is such a trap.
You don't have your PRs in a note somewhere buried deep within the crypts of Notes app?
Oh, I have all of them somewhere. A bunch. I actually have a bunch of it written down, probably. But and stupid Facebook memories loves picking on me too.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
hey, 8 years ago you were doing like iron crosswork. I was like, yeah, I know, buddy. Things are a little different, and I refuse to feel bad about it.
Anything more that you'd like to add on pre-existing?
Maybe only pointing out that that anatomical status, anatomical anomalies, we can't change. The sleep, diet, stress, and functional diagnosis, we likely have the power to change, but we're calling it pre-existing conditions as this is what you're bringing to the table every single day. Like
Right.
these are filling up your bucket to some degree before you even get going.
That brings up, I think, an important concept, which is that different people's preex are going to be different.
Very. All over the place.
And it's totally dependent on what you do for work, where you are in a season of life. Do you have children or not? What is your financial or logistical access to quality nutrition, relationships, community, the ability to move your body in a safe place, right? Like all of these things are really relevant. And so this is all said, not with the intention to shame you if these things are not where you'd like them to be and they are out of your control.
Weezy, I'm pretty sure we all have the same 24 hours in a day.
Fuck off. Get out of here.
Entirely joking. I realize, like,
notes,
looking at myself, it's like so believable that I would hold these opinions. Like, I kind of look like that asshole.
Great. Yes, Justin and I, him with Baloo and a completely remote job and an incredible supportive partner, and me with my 2 ham children and a small army of fur creatures, and we do not have the same 24 hours in a day, the same requirements of us.
Yeah. But that's an important, again, like, not to dive too much into the comparison thing, but nailing down where a person is, where an individual is, where maybe you are today, that's what matters. And then we can work off of that.
Right.
Trying to stuff someone else's things, program, etc., into the space you have may not work because they may be very, very different.
Right. That's true. Even for 2 people who present exactly the same way, like somebody who has all the same children and business requirements and creatures to care for in their household, but they maybe have a little more disposable income and they, let's say, hire somebody to take their kids to school, right? That person has a different capacity than I do, and it is unfair for me to compare the 2 of us.
I've worked with spouses who had extremely similar jobs, both kind of split childcare equally, but one of them was much better at managing their stress, and they were radically different people and approaches.
Yeah. That's wild.
Yeah.
That's wild. So that's our pre-X, right? We'll dive into a little bit of nuance and like what could this look like from a practical presentation in a little bit. But I want to talk about everything else that puts water into your bucket, right? That's your needs and wants. That's where life happens. That's where the stress or water filling capacity of work, family life, friends, hobbies, exercise, right? The other things that you need and want to do that is going to be super custom to who you are, what you do, where you live, how long it takes to do that, how much you enjoy that, right? All of those things are putting water in your bucket and have the capacity to, at that point, overflow the bucket a little bit. And so when the bucket overflows is commonly when we as coaches see people experiencing physical pain, because we know that a lot of the time pain is not the indication of damage. I can have pain with nothing structurally wrong. And if I were to walk into an MRI today, I imagine they would probably find something and try to convince me that that's a reason why X hurts sometimes, right? Pain is not an indication of damage, but it is a request to ask some questions and maybe do some things a little bit differently.
Completely. And pain can present as, when I say pain, what everyone thinks of, that like physical pain.
Right.
But overflowing also lead like plateau, fatigue,
Mm-hmm.
depression, burnout, all of that, like all of
Right.
that stuff is also part of exceeding capacity. So when I start noticing those things, or if people start noticing those things, one of the first places we'll go to is, whoa, 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 what's capacity look like?
Right. Right. What do we have room for? Right. And so, how this commonly exemplifies, because we're naturally really wired as cause and effect creatures, right? Like we like to understand, well, why did this happen so
Yep.
that I can do something differently? When that's kind of contrary to what we're talking about here. And so often when people are experiencing burnout, plateaus, fatigue, pain, depression, anxiety, they're looking at, okay, well, what put me over the limit? That's the problem,
What's the
right?
one thing I did that caused
Right,
this?
right. It must have been that last deadlift. It must have been the half marathon row that I signed up for without training. It must have been the hike. I sneezed wrong,
Yeah.
right? The thing that puts you over the limit is not the problem. It is the perpetual rocks and water in your bucket that you're not paying attention to that you're carrying around, right? So let's scope out an example, right? Let's imagine that we've got a 35-year-old man who has no children, who is not in a relationship and is very happy about that. He feels very fulfilled as a lone person, and not in an incel kind of way. He's just
I was gonna say.
happy to be single. He's not on Reddit shit posting hot women. He has a low stress job that pays him more than he needs to sustain the lifestyle that he wants to have. And he has incredible friends, an incredible relationship with family who lives close but not too close. And he has several hobbies that bring him energy, don't take it away. And he has a regular movement and mindset and breathwork practice.
Sounds dope. I'm in.
Right. Right. I'm in. Compare that then to a 32-year-old female who has 3 young children. She works a relatively high stress job and she is in a partnership, but the partner does not contribute to the relationship in the way that she'd like to, either with her personally or with the children. She lives very, very far from her best friend and her sister, with whom she's very close, and this stresses her out to no end. She is somebody that if you ask her what she does for herself, she laughs and says, well, I do get to have a bowel movement, mostly alone, at least once a day,
Sometimes I
right?
close the door.
Sometimes I close the door. The exercise that she gets is getting up from her fully remote job and walking to the fridge to get herself lunch and coming back. She is not having hunger cues for breakfast or often for lunch. Her first meal is often about 3 p.m. And she is absolutely gassed by 7 p.m. and basically like waddles to bedtime. These two people have wildly different capacities, and it is unfair to compare the two of them.
Yeah, exactly right. And
right?
what you just described is, I think, brilliant comparison for the two. Learning that much about either of those people takes a bunch of time.
Yeah.
You would not know by looking at either of them.
Particularly, like, if we assume the 32-year-old smiles in meetings and is kind to people that she works with, you'd have no idea. You'd have absolutely no idea. And so it takes peeling back the layers of what's going on. Like, imagine if that client showed up to you and you didn't know that, and you wrote her a 3 or 4 day a week, hour long, let's get after it plan, which is what a lot of coaches who don't know better are going to do.
Yeah.
Hey, you
And
decided you want to get in shape. Let's get the fuck after it. Right.
and that kind of person might show up asking for that.
right.
That kind of person who
Right.
has been pushed to whatever the thing was that pushed them to raise their hand and ask for help might
Right.
be challenging enough or painful enough or uncomfortable enough or whatever it is. They say, yeah, I'm a hard worker. I can do it. I handle so much. You can't knock me down. Let's do it.
Right.
I'm ready to work incredibly hard. Put me through the ringer, coach.
Right.
And
So then
it's,
what happens when that person gets put through the ringer?
yeah, they fall to pieces. Maybe not
Right.
the first day, but down the road, you know something bad is coming.
Right. And that something bad is likely to be some type of physical pain. I was deadlifting and rep 2 felt not great, rep 5 felt excruciating, and I had to leave the gym. Right. And so then the story that that person tells themselves is, I'm not a person who can do X. Like, this is not for me, full stop. Right. And that is heartbreaking to me, because they just don't understand this piece of, there's actually some more major things that I could focus on that would move the needle in more meaningful ways right now.
Yeah, 100%.
So here's my question to you, which is going to be obvious to you, but maybe not obvious to somebody listening. Is the thing that overflows the bucket the problem, or is it the perpetually almost full bucket?
Yeah, it's the lack of room. It's the lack of available capacity,
Right.
not whatever the rep was, whatever the movement was, whatever the thing was that knocks people over the edge. And it's easy.
Right.
This isn't a great analogy, but it's sort of like food poisoning. Whenever someone gets food poisoning, they always look at the last thing they ate. But the reality is, it could be anything in the last at least 48 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually not that someone didn't cook the chicken. It's usually that someone didn't wash their hands and something else is going on, and you touched
Right.
some money and then touched a piece of bread, and you did it to yourself because money is disgusting. But it
Right.
takes taking a few steps back and seeing the bigger picture of what happened. It's much easier to say, well, that's just what Chipotle does because it's garbage.
Right. Right. A personal example on this is that when my youngest Jack was quite a bit younger, like 1 and below, one of his very favorite things to do was to stick his hand in a dirty diaper and then hit me in the face with it. I'm serious. He thought it was the funniest thing.
10-10 slapstick, Jack. Like,
Right. Right.
that is funny,
Right.
but also horrifying in the right context.
Right. But the number of times I had pink eye in the first year of his life that was not a part of my control was atrocious. I think I had pink eye 6 times.
Oh my Lord.
However, it doesn't kick in right away. It takes a day or two for you to start looking like crusty weaves, you know? And so if I were to think of it as, what's the last thing that happened? It's like, oh man, I went to sleep and I woke up with pink eye. I guess I can't sleep again. Right? No, it's not the fact that I went to bed and woke up with pink eye. It's the fact that my 1-year-old slapped me with a poop finger yesterday.
Yeah.
Right?
And looking at that bigger picture of, not, I did a deadlift, I got hurt, I'm not good at deadlifts, or I'm not built for deadlifts, or I'm bad at it. And we use deadlifts, I think we've said it a couple times, because it's such a common one that people point to. And there's a couple
Right.
of reasons why that happens around deadlifts also. But it is, if you can reframe it as, well, I exceeded my capacity, how do we get more capacity? Because ostensibly, fitness resistance training, deadlifting, whatever you were doing, is something you want to do. We
Right.
don't want to take that away from you. We want to create more room so you can do these things that you both want and need.
I think that brings up an important point specifically related to deadlifting, which this is something that I hear from a number of clients, and I imagine you do as well, which is I either can't squat or I can't deadlift. And so my question back is, do you pick things up off the ground? Yes. Great. Then we need to deadlift. Do you sit on a toilet? Yes. Great. Then we need to have the ability to squat. Like you can squat. You just maybe can't do that in the confines of what you believe a deadlift or a squat actually look like.
Yeah. And overwhelmingly, they have something in their mind that
Right.
isn't what I mean anyway.
Right.
And to a large degree, unless we're training for a competition, I might not care how we're
Right.
loading your squat. There's a dozen different ways we can do it that might be the right way for you. And
Right.
we will find several of those. Same thing with deadlifts. There's lots of ways we can pick things up. It may or may not be a conventional barbell deadlift.
Right. Totally. I think that's really reasonable to bring up is that there's so many ways to skin the cat, and your perception of what the thing is might not actually be the way that a coach would want to apply it to you.
Completely.
Yeah. So before we move on, I think it's important to touch on that the load, which is the water in your bucket, versus your capacity, which is the space that you have available, is a constantly fluctuating thing. When we talk about this, we're not talking about it as this sort of fixed, set in stone thing. It evolves as everything else evolves, right? And so, for example, if I have a client who is really adherent to caring for themselves, breath work, I'm eating enough, I am intentionally trying to downregulate, I'm getting myself into a rest and digest state, I have good relationships, yada, yada. And we know that they're going into a stressful season, or maybe we don't even know that, but something comes up, likely something about the other things that they're doing needs to change so that we don't get into that space of, oh shit, now my bucket's full and everything's fucked.
And this is another spot where coaches communicating with clients somewhat holistically is incredibly useful,
Right,
because if you're only ever talking sets and reps and how did that one feel, you aren't going to get the information you need,
right,
which is, yeah, this article is due next week and I've been working on it for 3 months and I just got another set of revisions back and I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do it.
right,
And that's like suddenly this thing has entered their life that you wouldn't know from outside, just observing them.
right,
And that level of stress suddenly it's taken them to the edge. When someone would come to me in an in-person session and describe a horrific workday, I'm already making changes to the session. I'm
right.
already looking at it and say, oh, well, we were going to test squats today and we're not testing anything under these conditions.
Yeah,
We're changing what we're going to do and then
right,
explaining that to them.
right. A good coach will do that, and a bad coach will say, huh, and proceed as planned.
Yeah. Take nothing, maybe listen, maybe be sympathetic, but not
Maybe. Listen.
incorporate it into all the things you're about to do to intentionally stress this client.
Right. And if you're listening to this and you're a coach and you feel a little called out by that, please know that that's not us saying that you're bad forever. Right. This is an invitation to do things differently. We would actually really like you to do that rather than being like, they said I'm bad, so I'm just bad. No, be better. Raise the tide.
Yeah, it's a tool, it's potentially a piece of education, and it can be absolutely transformative in the way
Yeah.
you work with people, and it is such a credibility gainer, I have
Right.
found, when people come in and they present and I say, "Oh, excellent. We're not going to do X, Y, and Z
Right.
because of these added stresses, because of all this. I'm
Right.
concerned we're going to sail over the edge. If we do this workout and you go through this stressful thing tomorrow and you come back and say, I feel like $1 million. I feel great. I feel like I barely worked. I'll be surprised but elated and we can go
Right.
harder next time. But
Right.
just beating you into the ground over and over again is not going to have the effect that you wish it did.
Right. I think there's an interesting point to be made on the opposite side of this as well is that if somebody is kind of perpetually operating with a lot of load and not a lot of capacity left, not a lot of space left
Mhm.
in their bucket, and then something changes where something about their life, whether temporarily or permanently, shifts to allow some stress to drop, then that's our job as a coach to allow permission for there to be more and better in that session, right? Like, hey, last week those squats felt really, really heavy. This week, now that you're not reporting to that asshat of a boss that you hated, that actually felt really easy. Do you want to add some weight for next set?
And you can plan for this. And I'm thinking of multiple clients right now who are not competitive athletes, but we kind of have seasons we know are going to happen in their year. We have times we know work is going to be harder. We have times we know the kids are going to be around more. We have
Right.
times we know, different stresses are going to be more significant. And if we know it's coming, we can plan for it. Life still happens. Life is going to life
Right.
no matter what you do. But if we know, oh, I'm going to have 75-hour work weeks for this 5-week stretch, and I'm going to be on the road a bunch, those sessions and programming are going to look very different than, we're doing no work Fridays this summer and the kids are away at camp for 4 weeks. Like, then I'll ask permission. I'll say, this is an opportunity. Do you want to really get after it? Because you're going to have some room.
Do you want to fuck around?
Yeah, because this is the time. Now we have room and
Right.
we can do all kinds of cool things.
Right. I love that. I love that. I love that you do that for your clients. I think I mean, you know this already, but you're an exceptional coach. I'm glad that you
Oh, thank you.
pivot up or down.
Always.
So that's load versus capacity. What can we do about it? Right.
That's the magic question.
That's the magic question. Step 1 is acknowledge reality. Right. I need to know where I am to know what is possible to do. Right. I must be realistic about what is true about my existing load. What are the things that I cannot put down right now that are adding either rocks or water to my bucket? The second, which people can get stuck a little bit in a dance between these two, is adopt a growth mindset and not look at the reality of how things are with, this is just how it is. I am going to be out of town this weekend. I am flying somewhere midday Friday and I won't fly back until midday Monday. I usually am the person who is in charge of grocery shopping and meal prep for our family. It's a role that I love doing. I love to cook. I love to plan it. I'm a better cook than Ted is, so I do it. And it is so stressful to me to try to figure out what that's going to look like when I come back. So we have already together planned the menu and the grocery list for next week. It's well established that Ted is going to be doing the shopping this weekend. And for myself, for all of my lunches for next weekend, I ordered a meal delivery service and it's going to show up Sunday at 4 p.m. on my doorstep. And I know with certainty I will have lunches all week next week that are going to bring me joy and also adequate nutrition. I could choose to live in that, well, it's just going to be really stressful and I'll just that's just how it's got to be. But there's always sneaky ways that we can pivot that. Also, calling into perspective that sometimes these support things cost money or cost time or cost energy. And so that's a consideration as well.
Yeah, that's such a good example of something is coming.
Right.
And rather than just bracing for it
Right.
or assuming that everything is going to go off the rails and be awful and there's nothing that can be done, you're doing what you can do. Not everything is in your control. The meal delivery service might fall through, or it might not taste as good as you want to, or Ted might accidentally just only buy wheat thins. And be like, I thought didn't it just say wheat thins? I thought
Didn't
it was
you
wheat
just
thins.
say wheat thins?
It was just all wheat thins, right? But probably not. And it's a pretty good plan A.
Right.
As opposed to, I know this stress is coming. I know these issues are on their way, and I'm not going to make any adjustments and just see if this wave knocks me over. You have a plan. You've put up some bulwarks, so you're ready for it.
Right. And something that I have done in the past, it took me a really long time to learn this about myself, is that Ted's brain is not wired quite the same as mine is. And so if I were to just communicate, hey, I'm going to be out of the town for the weekend, it would be great if you could handle meal prep for next week. And then I would come home and there's 2 meals made. Right. And he's like, well, yeah, I made enough. It's 12 servings of the same thing. It's like, well, yeah, are we going to eat the same thing for lunch and dinner every day for 7 days with our 2 young children? Is that going to go over well? Right. And so that's an expectation that I did not communicate appropriately. I didn't set him up to be successful. And there could be some poo-pooers out there that say, like, why can't Ted think? Like, his brain isn't wired the same way. He has different strengths than I do. And he's an incredible partner who is very willing to do the thing and also is wired differently.
We're talking hypothetical, but the situation you just described, he did meal prep. He made 12
Right.
meals.
He
There's
did the
plenty
thing.
of food to go around. However, it's not at all what you wanted, and you're going to be at best a little disappointed and
Right.
potentially rather frustrated
Right.
at the outcome. But he is capable of doing the thing you
Right.
want. It just
Right.
needs a little outlining and maybe some coloring in.
Gosh, I like to sing his praises, and now I feel a little iffy about this. That's not him being maliciously compliant. That's him
Right.
genuinely believing he did an excellent job and being
Yeah.
open to, like, what could I do differently? And so then the answer to what could I do differently is, hey, let's plan the menu and the grocery list for next week together so that we're both in alignment with what that's going to look like. And then you just execute on it.
Completely.
Great.
And then you both
Great.
understand what the goal is, very specifically in some detail. And then it's a lot easier to follow through on that kind of stuff.
Right. And so there's countless examples that we could make about this, but people tend to get stuck in between acknowledging reality and adopting a growth mindset and letting perfect be the enemy of progress.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Constantly.
I can't do a 45-minute wake up or wind down routine to prepare myself for adequate rest or for an excellent day. So I'm going to do nothing. Okay. Do you have 60 seconds to do breath work? Well, yeah, but that's not going to move the needle. How do you know? Have you tried? I'm not hungry until 2 o'clock. I can't eat breakfast. Do you want to try? Because it's likely that you're not having hunger cues because your body's gotten used to you not eating.
Yeah.
Could we try?
Yeah. Also, I didn't ask if you were hungry. I told you to eat breakfast.
Right. Right. I told you to eat breakfast.
Yeah. I didn't ask, can you eat breakfast? Well, I'm not hungry, but yes, great. Awesome.
Right.
A lot of this is going to be uncomfortable.
Right. So, in adopting that growth mindset, we want to apply that to both managing the existing load, what's in my bucket, right? What is possible to shrink right now? And so, maybe that's working with a coach on some of the things that come up in your functional diagnosis. Maybe that is deprioritizing relationships that are super stressful and brings you no joy. Right. Lots of things that we could potentially do to manage the load. But we also, if we have the ability to do that, if we have the space in our bucket to do it, we want to try to increase capacity, which is difficult for people to understand because they think of it fixed
Yeah.
as, well, this is just how much space I have. And we can actually increase that by giving you more range of motion, by giving you better tools to deal with stress, by prioritizing quality relationships that don't make you feel like shit.
Yeah.
By doing exercise that feels good and meets you where you are, we can actually build the capacity itself so that you have the ability to carry more stuff in your bucket should shit hit the fan.
And these are two different but important ideas when we're talking about
Yeah.
this load versus capacity thing. Reducing the unwanted load so there's more room in the bucket to do all the stuff you want to do. That's an obvious way to make more room. We can
Right.
also build a bigger bucket and
Right.
smash the walls out and create it a little higher and do all of these things. So you are more capable when things get really hard, when
Right.
stress really, comes at you, you still have room for wants and needs. You might
Right.
not start there, but doing these things in conjunction with each other will make you more capable at handling the stresses, wanted or unwanted, as they come down and still let you move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a 1-2 punch. They serve each other, they support each other, and they give us more space to do the shit that we're interested in doing.
Yep.
I know we both have really strong opinions on this, and so I'm excited to hear what comes up. We want to control the controllables and major in the majors.
Mhm.
What's an example of a minor that you see people getting caught up with?
Oh, there's so many. I mean, any kind of supplement nonsense, really specific movements sometimes outside of like a competition setting.
Mm,
Uh, people getting fixated on their deadlift or their squat or
right.
the weight they can do of a certain movement on a certain day, kind of stuff. especially people who are working on general like strength conditioning, general preparedness, feeling good, live forever, be really strong, function when you're 80 years old. They get wrapped up in, well, my squat number isn't what it was 3 years ago, and just start spiraling when it literally doesn't matter at all. Same thing
Right.
with your, you know, BCAA supplement that you missed. Like, talk about not mattering. Like, why are you spending all of this time, money, energy, and opportunity getting supplement subscriptions, but not giving yourself a bedtime?
Right. Yeah. Um, Something that comes to mind for me is wearables,
Yes.
which I know you
I've
have
had
really
such a
strong
problem with
opinions
wearables for
on.
years. Yeah.
And this is said as somebody who wears an aura ring. I
Yeah.
love my aura ring, and sometimes that bitch is crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. Majoring in the majors, you probably don't need to worry about your red light routine and your ice bath and your intentional somatic breath work if you are consistently eating 1 or 2 meals and sleeping 5 hours a night, right?
Yeah.
Those things can have value to the right person. And a lot of people that I see are falling for the sexy, shiny object that's being dangled in front of them as the solution, when in fact, what I probably need is just a little bit more of the basics. I need to move my body with some intention within the confines of what feels good and is possible for me right now. I need quality nutrition and enough of it. I need quality relationships and enough of it. I need time to pursue the things that I am interested in. And I need space to rest. I need to get a good night's sleep, again, in the confines of what's possible. Somebody who is single, unmarried, has a perfect sleep temperature and Tempur-Pedic mattress at the perfect blah, 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 blah. And somebody who has a child who is still breastfeeding and a partner who works shift work, that's going to look different. What is reality look like? What would it look like to adopt a growth mindset and not assume that we're stuck in any one place and try to manage our load while increasing capacity and major in the majors, right? Not the green supplement, but hey, could I go to bed 15 minutes earlier?
And part of the problem with the majors is that they're boring. Their stuff,
Yeah,
everyone at least has a understanding that they should be doing it, and it's work. It's constant. Like,
right,
it's a thing you have to do all the time, even if we're making small adjustments. Even
right,
if we're saying, no, you need a vegetable on your plate 3 times a day. I don't care what the vegetable is.
right. I don't
It,
care.
it has to be a vegetable. That that is both easy and hard. It's far easier to pay more money for whatever pill or whatever powder or whatever
Right,
thing, which feels good because you're doing something, but is going to cost more and not work. And
right.
now you're set a step or two backwards, saving having like really interesting bowel movements or something like that. But
I'm
like,
glad you brought up poop because that's where my brain went.
yeah, exactly. But like getting sun in your face, moving your body, eating a nutritious diet, giving a damn about your sleep, and giving yourself whatever room you can to manage stress in a reasonably healthy way. That's all work, and it's not
Yeah,
the sexiest stuff.
yeah. And if all of this feels really intimidating to you and you feel like you would benefit from support from it, it is worth it to find a coach that you resonate with, who speaks in a language that you like and that you feel understands you for a period of time. That doesn't mean forever. I hate being a long-term coach. And I don't want to necessarily say I hate long-term coaches because I think there can be some value in it if goals are constantly realigning. But if you're somebody who's hearing this and is like, I don't want that kind of support forever, that's going to cost a lot of money, it's going to take a lot of time. What would 6 months do?
Yeah.
Right?
Especially if it seems overwhelming to get going, if it seems like a project that is kind of impossible, handing part of it to a professional who can break it down. And the answer
Yeah.
isn't going to be, oh, well, we're going to add these workouts and add this nutrition and change your sleep and change your stress management
Yeah.
and change your red light. And we're going to add these steps and we're going to track your daylight and we're going to monitor your calcium and we're going to make sure that your bowel movements are where they are. And we're going like, I want to know how much water you're drinking. Don't tell me anything else. That's
Right.
what we're going to do for 2 weeks. And we're
Right.
just going to notice and pay attention.
Right.
And now we're starting to build a habit and a routine, and we get some insight into what it's like to, build habits with a person and things like that. And then we
Right.
can start really making some changes in a way that is useful, applicable, and realistic.
Right. Rather, it's kind of the antithesis to the whole 30 or the 75 hard. Like, great, you did that for 75 days. Now what?
I always want to know what happens on day 76.
Right. Is it margaritas? Because that's what I did.
Did you do it?
In an entire another lifetime.
Sure. No, I did a whole 30. I definitely did a whole 30 at least once. And I did another kind of like as part of a contest in a gym where it was like
What's the
gamified and we got rewards and I won for visibly losing the most weight, I think.
Oh my god.
Like my like before and after pictures were judged to be the best and I got like a jump rope or
Fuck
something for it.
that. Oh my
Yeah, it messed me up
god.
for a while.
What's the most egregious like transformation-y type thing that you've done? Is that it?
What a great question. I've done some weird stuff. That was a big one because it was I don't it may have been a whole 30. It was something where there were lots of rules. And I was reading like
Mm.
really like this has xanthan gum. I'm not allowed to have it kind of stuff. It turns out everything is xanthan gum. And it was okay, but I noticed like my body composition did change. I wasn't thrilled with what happened and
Mm.
my like energy and performance wasn't amazing. It was okay.
Yeah.
But I kind of went through it going like part of my lesson was like I can just do all the other stuff and be just as good. Like this doesn't like maybe I'm the one
Right.
person who doesn't need vegetables and hydration. This was a long, long time ago.
I'm the one. I'm the
Yeah. Yeah.
exception.
I'm magical. I don't think I mean, I've done everything. I've done very serious paleo. I've been a vegetarian. I've never done any like cleanses or anything like
Ooh.
that. I mean, save I had my first colonoscopy recently, so I had to I had to do a prep for that, which is like that's a
That's a
cleanse. That
cleanse.
is a no
Now
joke
that's
cleanse. But
yeah.
I've never done like a cayenne pepper and lemon juice or any of that stuff.
See, it's funny that you point that out because that is called the master cleanse, and I
Mm,
have done it twice. And shortly after the second time, admitted for eating disorder rehab. So, not recommended.
not recommended. I got in a animated discussion with a coach once because I got you remember, do you know OPEX? They're still around. OPEX
Yes.
certification.
Yeah, they own Coach RX, which is
Yes.
the app I use to manage clients.
Yep, 100%. Which is they basically cloned True Coach because they were the ones who originally they helped develop Fitbot, which became True Coach. They were
Mm,
like an advisor or something. James was an advisor,
sure.
James Fitzgerald.
Sure.
OPEX is a super cool certification. I got it quite a few years ago. It was like a 9-month project. Overwhelmingly good stuff, overwhelmingly in like the functional fitness space. But they had like a nourishment section. And part of that section was suggesting that when clients present with X, Y, and Z, there's like these stresses, and it seems like their adrenals are doing like lots of stuff that I was already rolling my eyes at. But they
Mm,
suggested like the cayenne juice or
bah.
cayenne pepper and lemon juice for like
Snake
3 days or
oil.
something. And I said, why? And this wasn't James, it was whoever was some other guy, said something about cleansing toxins. And I rolled my eyes so hard it gave me whiplash. And then I went to a coach who had also taken the certification and was kind of close friends with some of the people who owned it. And I said, anyone who says the word toxin out loud, I immediately think they're a complete charlatan and stop listening to what they have to say. And she said, well, but some athletes really need a cleanse. They have lots of toxins. No, they don't. They definitely
Do
don't.
they have a functioning liver and kidneys?
Yeah. And this person started kind of flailing and said something about lead poisoning and radiation. I was like, are you
That's
saying that if
different.
you think someone has lead poisoning, you're going to give them cayenne pepper and lemon juice?
And that'll do
And
it.
somehow that's affecting their adrenals? Or are you admitting that maybe this is some nonsense from someone who you like and respect? And then we didn't talk for a few days.
Yeah. That sounds par for the course.
Yeah.
Anything else we should say about load versus capacity?
Just that I think that it requires some honesty without a ton of judgment. It's okay to
Yeah.
look at your life and say, oh, I probably don't have room for a lot right now, that doesn't mean that the 20 minutes of moderate cardio you probably have room for isn't going to be effective. It in fact
Right.
is going to be likely incredibly effective. You are handling as much as you can. That is you at 9.5 out of 10 for the day. It's going to feel incredibly hard and be very uncomfortable.
That's important to call out.
Like taking yourself to the edge of capacity is very difficult just because it wasn't like a 2-hour sweat fest with a ton of reps and a ton of weird movements doesn't mean it can't be incredibly effective and kind of the perfect thing for you that day.
Right.
The other side of it is sometimes, and we've all had this. I used to tell my clients, especially with like barbell work, hands hot, it's time to cook. And that's when someone would come in on like the middle of a cycle, kind of a whatever training day, we're doing stuff at 75%, and the weight's just flying and they're snappy and they look amazing and they have a ton of energy. You say,
We
oh,
got to go.
guess what? It's a testing day. We're changing everything. We're going so hard because you have all this capacity and all this energy and you're so well recovered. Let's take advantage of this.
Right.
Don't,
Yeah.
don't
Let's
be
have some
canonical
fun.
to whatever your plan is. Like, this is so
Right.
exciting. We may not pass this way again. Let's get nuts.
I love that. I love the reminder to be curious without judgment. I like to remind folks that I work with that should is not an allowable word.
That's
Like,
beautiful.
get it out of here. I would like to have room to do blank, not I should do blank.
Yeah, exactly. Because
Blah.
should what? Should according to who? Should even
Right.
And I'll say this
By
about the
who's-
programs I wrote. I was like, wait,
By
what do you mean you
right.
should? Like, well, you wrote it. I was like, I wrote that a week ago.
Right.
It was a whole lifetime. What are you talking about?
I don't know how you're feeling exactly today and what your bucket looks like today. I wrote that based off of last week.
Yeah, I made it up.
Get out of here. Should we do a segment?
Let's do a segment. I like naming my segments, as you've learned.
Yes.
I'm calling this one Women's Work.
Great.
So I have questions. I did tried to gather some facts here and there, generally around the idea of quote unquote women's fitness.
Great.
And I've split it up into like kind of more serious, potentially more useful, and a little weirder, more funny kind of questions and answers.
Great.
You down?
Yeah, I'm down. I don't think I have a choice.
Nope. You signed up for this. The contract is pretty airtight as far as I can tell.
There's no contract. It doesn't exist. It's
500
a handshake
episodes,
deal.
no matter what.
Not even spit in the hands. Never met you in person. Go ahead.
So let's do the first one. True or false? Women who exercise regularly have a lower all-cause mortality compared to men who exercise exactly the same amount.
Ooh, I'm going to say true.
It is true. Exercise in general seems to benefit women a little bit more. We don't really know why. It just is. True or false? During pregnancy, rigorous exercise in the third trimester decreases the risk of premature birth.
True.
It is true. This was an old wives' tale forever. Old wives and doctors telling people
and
to not do
qualified
things.
Professionals.
Yeah.
Just sit.
Not true at all. Especially if you've already been doing vigorous exercise, it's a very good idea to keep doing it within comfort levels, advised by a professional, et cetera, et cetera. As ever, none of this is medical advice. We're just two yahoos talking on a podcast.
Yep.
Question, I think this is number 3. Compared to men, doing the same relative exercise intensity, women actually burn fat a little more slowly.
True.
Nope. Women actually,
Really?
they rely a little bit more on fat oxidation at the same relative intensity. So they seem to, and we get a little individualized here, of course,
Yeah.
we're super generalizing, but they seem to tap fat to oxidize a little bit more than men do.
That's surprising to me because of women in general biologically requiring a little more fat.
Yep.
Interesting.
True or false? Lactating women who do aerobic exercise 4 to 5 times per week have a reduced breast milk production.
False.
It is false. Exercise seems to have no adverse effect on lactation whatsoever.
No effect at all.
This is a multiple choice question. Leading cause of death for women in the United States. 1,
Abusive men.
I didn't put that as a as a choice because I thought it would be a bummer, and I figured you would say it. Uh, 1, heart disease. 2, cancer. 3, traffic accidents.
Ooh. I'm going to say heart disease.
It is heart disease. And I
Yeah.
only put that in because I think it's interesting because traditionally, sort of culturally, heart disease gets lumped in as kind of like a man's disease
A
for some
man's
reason.
thing.
Yeah,
Right.
it's like a big dude eating steak and then keeling over at the table, and it affects women more. And it is now, assuming the
Yeah.
multiple sources I found are still accurate, leading cause of death for women in the United States.
Yeah. I'd like to go on a little tangent here, if
Yeah,
that's allowed in a segment.
this is a great time for it.
So this is a concern that I uniquely had because coming out of the birth of Jack, who is now over 2,
Mhm.
how? I don't know. It had happened. My cholesterol was extremely high, like way higher than you would want
Yeah,
it to be, and kept going up, which anecdotally we should see as losing weight and getting back into a good movement practice after recovering from birth and lactating, right? We should start to see that moving in the other direction. And it was going up. And so it became an urgent consideration of some things need to change
yeah,
quickly so that this moves in a positive direction.
yeah. Which requires a number of things. It's not
Yeah,
just because the link between your cholesterol readings and your dietary cholesterol is not a one-to-one. That's
right,
not how it works. You don't just like
right,
go vegetarian and everything changes.
right,
Unfortunately, it's a little more complicated than that.
right.
This is a great. There was a great little segment break because now we're shifting into slightly more fun slash interesting questions. In what year were women first allowed to run in the Olympic marathon?
Oh, I'm going to say it was 86.
I'm going to give it to you. It was 84.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Which is 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I was alive when women were not. I lived through at least one Olympics when women were not allowed to run the marathon.
Surely they're not capable of that. Their constitution doesn't permit it.
But
No
it
way.
leads me excellently into my next question. According to medical advice in the first half of the 20th century, what body part could potentially fall out if women exercised vigorously?
Oh yeah, a uterus. Just straight
Yes.
on out.
They were medical professionals warned women that their uterus would fall out.
I still have family members who believe that this is true if they lift too heavy. Aren't you concerned about like your uterus falling out like
Uterus falling out. Do
for
they know what it
fuck's
is?
sake?
Uh, Related, bicycling in
Yeah.
the 1890s, medical professionals warned of a supposed condition that women could develop from riding bicycles. What was the name of this term? If you get close, I'll give it to you.
Is it hysteria? Because that seems to be the thing at the time.
The term was bicycle face.
What does that mean? Can you describe it?
Supposedly, they would get a permanent facial disfigurement from being shaken around so much.
Do men get that?
No, no, no. No, men were fine.
No,
This was a
just
specific
women.
warning for women.
Just women.
It also doesn't matter if men are ugly. So
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you.
Wow. I would love to know what happened in the person who decided this is life, right? Like his wife or sister or mother came back from a holiday, quote unquote, biking. He was like, no, we can't have that.
I mean, it just
He-
smacks of that, like, your face is going to stick that way if you keep doing it. Like, someone saw someone look a little funny. And old bicycles were famously, they were called like the Bone Shaker, was one of the names of the original bicycle, because it was
Sure.
just iron and the wheels
Right.
were iron. Rubber wheels is a relatively recent invention. So they're slamming around. You're like, well, your face is going to stick that way if you keep doing it.
Because that's how skin works.
It also smacks a little bit of, look, an easily accessible mode of transportation that a woman could just go off on her own on. We should probably put some
We
walls
can't
around
have
this thing.
that. We need her to use her legs so we can catch her because she
Uh,
can't run.
Related to restrictions around women's exercise, the inventor of the sports bra, whose name I forgot to write down, but they sewed together something to create the first, they called it the jog bra. What did they sew together? Spoiler, there were two of these things that they sewed together.
Were they coconuts?
No, they were jock straps. And the year was 1977.
Get out of here.
Yep. There were no sports bras before then. Related to
Well, yeah,
jogging
why
as a
would you
hobby
need it?
jogging as a hobby was a 70s thing. Like,
Why would you need it if you're not allowed to move your body?
mm-hmm. Interestingly, so sports bra invented in 1977. What year was spandex invented?
It's got to be like 79.
59.
What?
Spandex had been around for 20 years, and they were like, we're going to use jock straps for this.
Certainly a man was behind that.
Victorian era, so late 1800s, there was a fashion item that women wore while doing calisthenics to avoid breaking a sweat. I will Venmo you $100 if you get this right. It was a commonly worn item by women.
In
This was
calisthenics.
specifically suggested that they wear this doing calisthenics to avoid breaking a sweat.
Was it like ice pantaloons?
It was a full corset. I'm not saying it was a good idea.
You mean the thing that people wear now to sweat more?
Uh-huh. Yeah, I suspect it was about, well, if you can't breathe,
You can't move.
then you're not going to go that hard and
Right.
everything will be fine.
And we can continue to control you.
Uh, I've got three more that get a little
Great.
weird. Inventor
Okay.
of the bar workout method, name was Lottie Burke. Completely interesting woman. Fascinating,
Yeah.
Lottie Burke. She had a primary motivation for creating the bar method. What was it?
I have no idea. Primary motivation for creating bar.
It was for this. It was going to be for women. This was designed to be women's fitness. She specifically wanted what outcome?
Was it a thigh gap?
It was improve sex lives.
Hmm.
It was specifically.
That makes sense. Specifically for men. Of course.
Well, Lottie Burke was a woman. She wanted the women to have a better sex life.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
She is a
We'll take it,
interesting
Lottie
person.
Burke. I recant my snark.
I have one more that's quote unquote women's fitness, and one general that I can't resist asking you. There was a fad in Detroit in the early 1900s related to our talk about cleansing earlier. There was a thing people were eating to scour the body of poisons. Commonly available. You can get it lots of places, but it was a new idea. If we eat this, it will scour the body of poison.
Was it charcoal?
Close. Sand. People were eating sand and getting it, quote unquote, prescribed to them.
That's like leeches.
Yeah. Utterly bizarre. And this wasn't, it was 140 years ago, but that's not that long ago. Like, my grandmother was alive.
Imagine how many people got like terrible intestinal parasites or SIBO from that.
Yeah, because I bet it wasn't like, is there such a thing as clean sand? Like,
is there such a thing as sterile sand?
Yeah.
Gross.
Last one is not women's fitness, but it was interesting as I was like digging through stuff. The first treadmill ever built was built for a very specific purpose. It was I don't think it's going to help, but it was in the early 1800s. I think it was 1818, 1819, something like that. For what was the treadmill built for?
I have a terrible answer.
Bring it.
Slave punishment.
Exactly right. Prisoner punishment. Punishing prisoners, but a lot of prisoners were slaves then. And they literally used it to grind corn and pump water.
Oh my God.
Yep.
I'm so disappointed that I got that correctly.
It was just an awful human thing. It certainly wasn't about cardiovascular fitness.
All right. And now people pay hundreds of dollars a month to access rows of them.
Exactly.
Oh.
That was women's work. I neglected to keep score, so I'm sorry to tell you that you barely lost.
That's just not true. I did exceptional.
If you want to go back and listen again and keep score for me and tell me what Weezy did, I'm happy to grade
how well
it later.
Weezy did.
Yes.
How successful she was.
To what degree she barely lost.
What are even the criteria of win-lose?
I'm sorry, you would have to score more points for me to tell you that. Better luck next time.
Oh, that was a good segment. I'm glad there are no sound effects.
There we go.
I'm okay with the sound effect after. During, it's very stressful for me.
Yeah, understandable.
Well, this has been just a joy.
As
Thanks for
ever.
bringing us home. Team, this has been Training Partners. It's been a joy. Again, I'm Weezy Shoemaker, joined by Justin McClintock. We will see you next time.
Thanks, gang.
Here come your training partners, so smart, so strong, so funny. Let's go with your training partners. We're ready to shine together.